So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains. Welcome to For the Love of Pomegranate podcast. A late For the Love of Pomegranate podcast. A tardier than normal For the Love of Pomegranate podcast. But we are Sergeant Crystal Palace. I think it's fair enough to say somebody who, a team that is getting their own bounce from their own legendary midfielder that they have brought in that has nothing to do with their club. But it is definitely something I think that a lot of Crystal Palace fans will against Aston Villa. But Paddy, you're back from you were back from Birmingham, I suppose, for the review show as well. But you're not going to make any trip over, even not going to go to London this weekend, no?
No, I have to choose wisely, and I'm going to Man City next week, so I think I'll be taking a winter hibernation after that for at least a couple of months, because the fund is running low. So yeah. So I'm not going anywhere this weekend.
Tell me about it. But it'll be an interesting game, I suppose, this weekend. As I said there, Crystal Palace, obviously, seeing a different side to them this year under the tutelage of Patrick Vieira. And I suppose, Paddy, before we look at what Aston Villa are going to do, I want to talk a bit about Palace, because they've, I wouldn't have thought it would have worked. Vieira, coming into the league after, where he had been. And I know he had that job with Nice, I think it was. But, he wasn't exactly tearing up trees. And I suppose really that fresh kind of thoughts from a serial winner in Patrick Vieira, coming in there, changing up the way that the dressing room thinks, maybe having a different kind of mindset with regards to how people should prepare, having that different kind of aura within the dressing room is very important, I think, for players in this day and age. And realistically, I suppose the emulation of that with Steven Gerrard within the Aston Villa camp is something that we're hoping we continue to see on into this game. But did you think that Vieira was going to tear up trees with Crystal Palace when he first joined?
I certainly did not. I thought we'd see them struggle this season, which they haven't done. I think they're unbeaten in 6 or 7 games. They drew at the weekend. They won the 2 before that, and then maybe drew the 4 before that. Similar to Brighton, they albeit they had the 2 wins in later part of the season, but they're playing well. He plays a similar kind of system to Steven Gerrard too, which is interesting, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But no, to answer your question, I didn't think for 1 minute they would be where they are, and you just have to look at the likes of Christian Benteke, who has been, let's face it, poor since he left Aston Villa, and all of a sudden he's tearing up trees there and scoring goals left, right, and centre. So it's not going to be easy for sure, but it'll be a really interesting tie, and it'd be really interesting to see the 2 teams go off each other.
They're more kind of the Crystal Palace squad. They're more of a sum of their parts, I think, and I think that's what Vieira has done. Is he's taken them, he's made them, I suppose, more efficient in, how am I going to put this? It's more efficient in what they do, insofar as they don't just need to get the ball to Zaha like they did in seasons past. Get it to Zaha and see what happens, because they were following trajectory of Aston Villa of being like Zaha FC, like we kind of were coming with Jack Grealish. And what Vieira has done is he's come in, a couple of smart signings. I don't know whether they were him or whether they were the board, the 2 centre halves, Joachim Anderson and Gueye. Have been very good this season. 2 centre halves there. They've been real stabilizing piece. But I think for me, Conor Gallagher, and I mentioned it last year when we played against West Brom, Conor Gallagher has all the talent in the world. He's all the talent in the world to play that position that he does in midfield. And I said it. I said I would have loved him to be at Aston Villa, to rock up at Aston Villa, because he just does that. He's just a good midfielder, you know, a good dependable midfielder. He's beginning to show it at Palace this season, and he's been someone that makes him tick inside there with Milivojevic and Coate, and our midfield are going to get bullied to high heaven inside there this Saturday, and I think Vieira relishes that. I think he's picked 3 bullies in there because you know, he was no shrieking violet himself when he got going inside there.
Yeah. I think the best we can hope for is a bypassing of it, similar to what happened at the weekend when we failed to let their midfielders get into it. I agree with you with Gallagher. He's hard not to like. He's a likable fella. He plays football how you'd like to see it played. There's a little bit of nastiness in him too. He's well able to put in a tackle. Plays with a smile on his face. Can pop up with a goal. He has a lot in his locker. I'm amazed that he hasn't made the breakthrough at Chelsea, but when it just goes to show, when you have so much money, you know, your talent that you're producing doesn't always come to the fore. You've got other ways of skinning a cat, unfortunately for him.
It's really interesting one, and this is off topic, Paddy, as well. When we get into that, you know, he didn't make it at Chelsea because he didn't, and he's been around. I think it was at Swansea. He was obviously at West Brom, and now he's here at Crystal Palace. But like when you see him, even last year, when you see the shift he was putting in midfield, and they were still trotting out. And yes, I know Callum Hudson-Odoi doesn't play in the same position as him, but Ruben Loftus-Cheek, you know, he's a better player than Loftus-Cheek. I've never personally rated Loftus-Cheek. Well, sorry, that's unfair to say. He does enough, all right, but he's gotten a lot of fanfare, I suppose, as being one of he's top-notch Chelsea academy graduate. And same with Hudson-Odoi. But neither of the two of them have played anywhere near the same amount of football as Gallagher in recent years. And realistically speaking, you know, Gallagher has learned his trade, and he does have a lot of years on him, but he's learned his trade, and I think he's going to reap the benefits of it, whether he stays at Chelsea, whether he decides he wants to move permanently. What he's done is he's kind of forced their hand, because he now in a way has all the power, because he's done all his growing up away from the club, that, you know, he can edge for a move, because, you know, he probably feels like he deserves it, or he probably feels like he go back to Cobham or to Stamford Bridge and demand a position inside there when, you know, alongside Jorginho, or if Jorginho moves on the next year or so. But fair play to him. He's really, really good player, and someone we're definitely going to have to look out for over the weekend, I think.
100%. I think I know we're way off topic here, but I think his next move is an important move for him. Whatever he decides to do, it's make or break time for his career. So I hope he gets a permanent move somewhere. If that's Palace, so be it. But maybe he might be somebody that our own guys would look at the end of the season if he's up for sale.
Yeah.
Something I'd like to see anyway.
I think he's one of those. He's just an honest player. You know, he's just a good, honest player, and you know me, I'm a sucker for guys with unbelievably good hair, and he's got unbelievably good hair as well, so that puts him up another notch in my book too. I think one of the biggest things with Crystal Palace, Paddy, as well, one of the biggest changes, and once again, like it or not, they're a club that's kind of moving in parallels with Aston Villa, yet they aren't spending anywhere near the amount of money that we're spending at all. But I think from the kind of development of the squad, in a way, yes, not exactly, but in a way, they're moving in parallel to us as well. They've created a bit more of a squad and a bit more team there this season. You know, they've brought in Olise. Obviously, they've got Eze there last season. So they've brought in young, up and coming, good, skillful players. Hudson-Odoi comes down from Scotland. Yeah, and you know, now they're not just now they can replace their full front three. They could bring on Edouard in front instead of Benteke. They could put Olise. I know he's usually plays in through the center, but they could put him on the right, and they could put Eze on the left, and that's a whole new attacking tree that gives you something completely different to Zaha, Ayew, and Benteke. So there's a bit of smarts gone on behind the scene in Crystal Palace, and Patrick Vieira, I think, is somebody who's definitely reaping the rewards for that. But you know Edouard, Paddy, and Am I right in saying, and I could have this wrong from our conversations, like when you would have gone to watch him playing for Celtic, you were never thoroughly or terribly impressed by him. Am I right in that, or am I misconstruing what you may have said?
Yeah, he always seemed to play as if he was operating at 60 or 70%. That's what I always felt about him. Now, I've seen him a couple of times for Palace, and he's certainly not operating at 60 or 70%. He's like a new player. So, obviously, Patrick Vieira saw he was only operating at 67% and still scoring a lot of goals in Scotland, believe what you may about how easy or hard it is to score goals in Scotland. I'm telling you, it's quite hard, especially to score the first couple when you're Celtic or Rangers. So it's a difficult league to get into and get your feet under the table and start scoring goals. And he did it easily. Albeit when Rangers weren't playing particularly well, so he shone in a mediocre team. But I always believed he just wasn't enough. He never got out of third gear, let's say, and I believe he is at the moment. But he's just got an embarrassment of riches there at the moment, and I think the fact he has Benteke firing means there's no room for him in the team. We haven't mentioned even IU, who seems to up his game against us as well. And Zaha just seems to have something with Mings and is a wind-up merchant. So we'll have to deal with him again on Saturday as well. But look, it is what it is. It'll be an interesting battle to look at Zaha against Cash and IU coming in off that wing for Target and for Tyrone Mings or whoever they want to swap over. And Zaha sometimes plays off the right when he plays against Mings. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's one I'm relishing as well, because they do bounce off each other quite a bit. The one thing I'm kind of looking forward to, in a way, depending on what side he plays, is I'm looking forward to the fact that there's no real massive like Zaha's probably going to play on the left, so he's going to pin back Matty Cash. Although they could move him over onto the right. There's they did that last season, but this season mostly IU has played from the right. And what I'm trying to get at here is Matty Target won't have the absolute latent speed merchant running at him like he did with Lamptey.
Yeah.
Even the overlapping fullback in Joel Ward isn't the speed merchant.
Yeah, 100%.
Year in, year out, I think I sit here and I say that Joel Ward is potentially the weak link in this Crystal Palace team, and year in, year out, he proves me wrong. So but one thing he isn't is a marauding fullback. And I think it's going to be good for it. In a way, it's going to be good, should I say, for Matty Target, from the point of view that his confidence must be high after Tariq Lamptey and the way that he marshaled him last week. And I said in the review pod with yourself and Adam that I thought that he was my man of the match. Probably himself or Mings, but I thought that the change in player for me, for Matty Target, was stark. I thought he played an awful lot better. Was he perfect? No, he absolutely wasn't, because Lamptey got in around him. But was he much better? He absolutely was. And was he serviceable? Absolutely more than serviceable he was. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing him and hoping he has a good game and continues to build on that, because I don't think Crystal Palace are going to throw the kitchen sink at him. Saying that, watch them start Zaha and maybe I don't know, maybe they're hardly likely to move Mitchell over onto the right-hand side, and they could move Mitchell over onto the right-hand side and start Jeffrey Schlupp at left back, but I think that would be highly unlikely. But I'm looking forward to Matty Target this weekend and building on that, should I say, on the confidence that he had last week. So I think he deserves it. it.
100%. I think the making of the game is the midfield. I think if we can marshal that midfield and keep them quiet and stifle them, I think we might nick a result out of this one. I'm not overly optimistic that we're going to go and score loads of goals. I think it might be tight enough, but I think if we can keep them quiet, we could nick it.
Let's look at our own team there for a moment. So, Paddy, a couple of names back in the fray, back training. Well, one anyway, specifically in Douglas Luiz. Back training. I think he'll be a nice addition into this midfield. And I think he's somebody that Oh, I'm back again. I think he's somebody that Stephen Gerrard would be relishing. Canberra, I don't know, but I think he'd relish getting somebody like that because Douglas Luiz is pretty dynamic in midfield. And whether he actually plays in that defensive midfielder position for Stephen Gerrard or not, is yet to be seen. But when you look at what he played with above at Rangers, and he had Scott Arfield and the other player escapes me. But the Scott Arfield role that he had there was somebody who wasn't. He played in that pivot position all right, but he was able to be a bit more expressive in his passing. He wasn't just the link guy there between defense and midfield. He was a bit more expressive. And I think Douglas Luiz has that. He had that when he was with when he was with Girona, I think it was. And that's what Man City actually wanted him to be. Wanted him to be a bit more of a less of a metronome, more of a kind of an expressive deep line playmaker type player who could break up play. But it wasn't to be at Man City. Are you looking forward to him, Paddy? Is there anyone else really that you think could be pushing for a place in the Aston Villa team for selection, I suppose, really, this coming week?
I don't envisage too many changes here. I think his biggest decision is to make up front. Does he take Mings or Watkins out of this for Leon Bailey? That's the only one I can think of that he's got a decision to make. I think Nakamba played so well. Pardon?
I don't think he has to make a decision. I think the decision would be to drop Buendia, bring in Bailey.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't, to be honest. I'd stick with him. I think he needs a run of games. I think his fitness will be helped if he gets a run of games. You think about it now, he's going to play 3 games in 10 days if he plays the weekend and plays against Man City. I think that will work in working on his fitness. So I think we'll have a fully fit Emi Buendia if he does that. I wouldn't change that. I would be slightly concerned about the other option. I'd rather see either Ings or Watkins through the middle with Bailey on the left. And that would be my only change, I think. I think it would be harsh to blow Nakamba out of there straight away, especially with the injury that Luiz is coming back from. So I would leave it as it is. That's just my opinion.
I think we'll probably see Luiz on the bench, all right. But or do we? I'm between two minds. I just think he's the type of midfielder that Dean Smith that Stephen Gerrard is going to want in there because. And this isn't being anti-Nakamba or anything like that, but if you can have somebody who can get their foot in there, and Douglas Luiz can, he did it after Project Restart, and he did it at the start of last season. He was fantastic. Yes, his form did wane more or less. His form waned when he started getting selected for Brazil, but there's nothing new there with Aston Villa and people's form waning slightly when they get selected for their international teams. But I think that if Stephen Gerrard could get somebody like him and maybe play to his strengths a small bit more, which is distribution, I think maybe he's relishing that. But whether it comes this week, I think it might be a small bit too early. But it wouldn't surprise me if he started and they did relegate Nakamba to the bench. One thing's for absolute certain anyway, Paddy, is Jacob Ramsey is going nowhere. Jacob Ramsey is going nowhere in that midfield because. As I say, even watching the game back, and I know I said I'd do a tactical analysis, but time just hasn't been my friend this week. I plan to be doing this podcast. This is why we're actually late. I plan to be doing this podcast from a new myself. It just didn't work out that way. And that's why everything is blinking here because... Long story. But when I did look back at the game, Jacob Ramsey was obviously everywhere. I thought he was fantastic, carried the ball. He was, a real leader within the middle of that park. And he played more to the left-hand side. And I think we're going to see an awful lot more of him being an outlet for this team at the weekend.
But, when you look forward to maybe the Man City game, do we see a Jacob Ramsey in that advanced role and maybe playing off the left, playing in that left-sided 10 or whatever it is, because he may shoehorn Douglas Luiz into that if he needs to keep things tight in midfield. But I think it'd be very harsh on Nakamba if you look at his stats and his passing. I think he did everything he was asked to do at the weekend, and for me, he was pushing for man of the match because he just seemed to do everything right. He picked some amazing passes when you thought he was under pressure, even in the lead up to the goal, and to free Ashley Young away. He could really flourish from this setup under Steven Gerrard, and I think it'd be just a tad unfair if they drop him this weekend.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. Completely agree with that as well. As I say, I just think it's better. The options are there now, and we're getting people back from injury. Who's to say that we don't see Ashley Young in midfield, or Ashley Young in that position instead of they were talking about Emi Buendia, or we were talking about Emi Buendia or Leon Bailey coming in there. Who's to say Ashley Young? Like, if you listen to Greg Evans said he was nearly a shoe in to start one of those tens, and he didn't. You got to say what you see when he came on. He played very, very well when he came on that more advanced position where he was given more of a free role to float around in between Brighton's back three and in around our midfield and keep them honest as well. Now, obviously, we're coming up against a hell of a different opposition, considering their formation wouldn't allow us to, I suppose, have that floaty type player up there. And that's kind of what I'm thinking as well, Paddy, with regards to Buendia. Maybe he doesn't start Buendia because you've got three fellas there that are over 6 foot, and then in Milivojevic, he doesn't care about your children or your future. He's going to kill you. Like, he's an absolute Brutus. Like, and he is, and he's very good at it. And Coate, he doesn't care about you either. So it's a tough one. But then again, we don't have that. We can't match midfielders or any midfield in this league. We can't match any midfield in this league for strength. So,
not at the moment. We can't. No.
And that's why under Dean Smith as well, an awful lot we had to go around midfield. So that's why we had to go wide, and we were crossing balls in from Matty Cash and Matty Target. And I don't particularly like us crossing the balls in because we don't have the strikers to cross the balls. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of a game plan Dean Smith comes up with, and whether he keeps those three midfielders occupied with the 2 10s and almost make it a 4-5-1 type setup. More than anything else. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. During the week, Paddy, we had under 23s game, and Jaden Philogene-Bidet obviously ripped up trees in that one, scoring 2 goals. Definitely, was the man a moment. Steven Gerrard was there. We're yet to know what he's kind of like. Well, he's mentioned about the youth setup, but we're yet to know if he's going to be able to put his money where his mouth is and trust the young kids so early in his tenure. Do you think it would be a statement, I suppose, more so than anything else? Do you think it would be a statement if the likes of, like, he didn't start Cameron Archer wasn't on the bench last week?
No.
Whereas if Dean Smith was here, Cameron Archer was on the bench. He wasn't on the bench. The likes of El Ghazi, he had Keenan Davis there. Do you think we see one of the younger kids on the bench now that he's had more time probably to dig into it and look under the bonnet and see what they're all about?
Well, I would imagine that definitely Philogene-Bidet has put his hand up to be counted anyway. I'd be very surprised if he's not in around the squad. You had Carney there as well, who apparently had a very good game. I didn't see the game, unfortunately. I was just too busy. I haven't had a chance to have a look back either. But look, I think he'll need to settle into this first before he starts bringing these guys in. I think he'll just need to get a little bit of trust, have a little bit of trust in them before he makes those decisions. I don't envisage seeing it too soon, but if we pick up any injuries, he'll have seen enough of them at that stage on the training pitch and at under 23 level. So I've absolutely no problem. And I'm sure the leaders in the team are constantly telling them, what Archer and there's no doubt they've looked back at games over the season to see what these guys have done. Philogene-Bidet to a lesser extent hasn't had much of a chance, but I think Archer's still our top scorer, is he? So yeah, he's definitely going to be sniffing around looking for it,
And there was some ridiculous stat about goal contributions in comparison to minutes he's played, regardless of age group this season. If someone can dig that out, I saw it yesterday to do with Archer. It was quite phenomenal, to be honest with you. But I think, and you see him in training videos and stuff like that. So I think he's going to be to the forefront. I thought it was just maybe the fact that Brighton played once again with 3 big men at the back. And the potential of Dan Byrne being in there as well to play left back. I think maybe that was it. If we needed a battering ram to come on to kind of match them man for man, or match them height for height there, that maybe Keenan Davis was there, but it was an interesting one. It's something that we'll continue to look at as and when we start to see more of Stephen Gerrard's team selections. Last little piece I had for you, Paddy, is, and I can't remember what it is. It was just to chat about. Look, we had a great win against Brighton the weekend, but results didn't go our way either. There was some really freaky results in the Premier League. The Premier League is beginning to concertina a small bit. It's beginning to become, you have the likes of Norwich winning. You have the likes of Newcastle, getting a point. Newcastle obviously being at the bottom of the table. But you know what I'm saying? Burnley and all those teams winning, picking up points the weekend. Are we is this a must win from that point of view, or it's hard to call anything a must win in a manager's second game? And that's why we're reluctant. That's what you can hear at my voice. I'm reluctant in how to phrase the question. But if we don't win this, we're facing a murderous row.
I think a win will be very important, bearing in mind what's ahead of us. I think he will go for it. I think he will go for it this weekend. Bear in mind that we've got Man City, Leicester, Liverpool before we play Norwich, which will be no pushover either, because if those guys are playing for their manager, they're going to want to get stuck in too. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I believe it's one we should and probably could win, but you just never know what's going to happen on the day. We've had some freak things happen against Palace in the past. We also have a brand new Premier League refereeing the game on Saturday, who is not shy about throwing out cards. I think he threw out 6. You sent me the stat today. Did he send out 6 people already? Did you not?
No, because I couldn't even tell you what his name is.
Oh, you sent me the one about Mike Dean.
Yeah, Mike Dean shouting assist from Mike Dean after Watford scored. Fuck me, can't buy God's sake. But yeah, we were talking about the ref today. I don't even know what his name is, but you were saying to me today that Mr. Salisbury, hopefully he was a closet Liverpool fan when he was younger, and that he's in awe of Stephen Gerrard, and things go our way from that point of view. And look, there's going to be people out there that will have looked up to Stephen Gerrard, and they will be referees, and they will feel intimidated by him on the sideline. And let's hope that this is the first of many decisions that go our way at the weekend. From that point of view, but that's going to be a really interesting one. I think to be honest with you, I think you nearly have to say that from this standpoint, based on what we don't know about him, he is a factor in this game, the referee.
Of course, yeah. We saw it a couple of years ago, Kevin Friend. You just don't know what's going to happen. Funnily enough, Mike Dean is fourth official, so he'll be in his ear, no doubt, telling him to calm down and what he did wrong, I'm sure, and will have a little bit of an influence on him. It's interesting looking at the manager cam from yesterday that the club released. You could see there was a great deal of respect from Anthony Taylor for Stephen Gerrard, but that didn't reflect in his decisions on the pitch either. So you just don't know what you're going to get, but it's a little bit worrying just to see a brand new referee coming in like that and landing on our doorstep, because they never land at a big game. This is probably perceived as a mid-table game that they can get away with. So yeah, but look, we'll reserve judgment until we see what we can do. If he comes out on Saturday and sends off Milijevic and Wilfred Zaha in the first 20 minutes, we'll all be very happy.
Yeah, and it was, and you mentioned Kevin Friend. I don't know whether you just picked that name from the top of your head, but Crystal Palace away was Kevin Friend again as well.
It was that's why I said it. Yeah.
That's why you said it. Yeah, it was that exact fixture. Yeah, it's look. I think you have to be relatively hopeful at this game. You have to be hopeful, I suppose, but not cocky with regards to this game. We've the players to beat Palace. We absolutely do, but they have the players to go and beat us too. So it's really just going to be a case of we're going to be an away team. I don't know like if you were to say last year, it would have been almost a given we would have won away, especially in the early part of the season. We were very good away from home. And but this season, let's see what our defense does. Specifically, I think in the first half, it's that, and that's the key for me. We spoke about what our front three are going to be, and we spoke about maybe does Louise come in from the Canberra, but for me, realistically, does our defense build on what they did the last day? Can we keep another clean sheet? Are we going to keep them down to 6 shots like we did like we did with Brighton last week? If we can limit those opportunities, I think we have enough in the tank up front. With the wily old fox, I don't think Danny Ings is going to be as bad again as he was the last day. And obviously Leon Bailey will be closer to fitness, I think, than he was last day. So whether he's kept in reserve, and don't be surprised to see exactly the same team go out as started against Brighton as well.
Possibly, yeah.
But
although I do believe he'll unleash Bailey down that side to try and get at Ward. That's just,
I think so.
That's just what I'd do.
I think that would be smart. I think it would be smart as well if he was to do that. A couple of comments there, guys. Sorry, I completely neglected the comments there as they were coming in. So Macadamia says, you just know Benteke is going to do us dirty. Hopefully Miggs keeps his head for this one. Yeah, it's like we've said it there already. It's it's very conducive of a game whereby something silly happens, and it has happened in the past, specifically in this fixture. So captain now has the armband, bit more responsibility. Don't get involved with Wilfred Zaha and see what happens. Make sure that you do your duties correctly. And I know that won't be lost in Tyrone Mings, and it won't be lost in from a leadership point of view as well. So I'm sure he knows exactly what's ahead of him in this game as well. Richard says as well, as we mentioned there, that there's Premier League debut on Saturday. He was trigger happy with his cards in the Championship, as you said, Paddy, as well.
I found the statistics there. Salisbury will step up from the Championship, where this season he's dished out 20 yellow cards and 5 red cards in 6 games. So he's averaging 3.5 yellow cards a game and nearly a red card a game. So, he might not want to make a name for himself on Saturday, so it mightn't be as bad. Hopefully.
That's pretty
If it is, I hope he's dishing it out to Crystal Palace.
Yeah. Hopefully we get a break from that point of view as well. But they're pretty mad numbers as well, for sure. They're pretty mad numbers. Tom, good to see you, man. The way we played on Saturday, narrow in the middle, so Brighton had to go wide to get through us. Maybe a bit more of a challenge on Saturday. Palace more of attacking threat. They definitely are more of attacking threat on the wings if they can get it up to Zaha and Ayew. And Conor Gallagher pulls the strings in the middle of midfield. Mijevic can play a pass. Kouate is there more so as a destroyer and a stopper in midfield, I think. But we will have to be measured, with regards to making sure that we don't neglect the middle of the field if we do push them wide, or if we try and push them wide, or if they want to go wide, that we don't flood those wide areas as well and leave us passive in midfield. Because a lot of times, like you just see it last year with Leeds, we did that with Brighton, we did it last season. It was just very easy to carve us up. But new midfield structures, and hopefully that midfield structure and the spacing is very key. I touched on it in the preview and the review show last day as well, and I sent the tweet as well. It's going to be very important to see where John McGinn ends up, who he ends up marking, where he ends up staying. Does he end up roaming? Does he end up going a small bit more further forward? He's going to be really pivotal to this midfield and how the midfield sets up as well. So it's going to be an intriguing battle in there, a battle of 2 different styles, I think, for sure indeed.
Absolutely.
The remote property flipper says can't stand absolute wind-up merchant. Can't disagree with that. He does like to play the villain as well. John Steele says, with all due respect to Brighton, I'm glad there's more preparation for Palace. Our defence will need to be on point, but we will score against them. I think that's very, very fair. That sums up what I said there a moment ago as well, John. Our defence, like whatever happens with our strikers, our defence needs to show up, and they need to have their big boy pants on, because they've got a rather nifty front 6, even you could call it, the 3 guys coming off the bench and the 3 guys that will start, and they do have a change of pace players as well in there as well, which is important for lots of teams. Interesting point here as well from Tom. Mings and McGinn and 4 yellows. Would be better picking up 5 on Saturday and missing City on Wednesday? I suppose it all depends on if you believe that we're not going to beat City, which probably is the rational thought. But is any player going to do it on purpose?
Yeah, even if they don't pick them up. Yeah, do you know what? I'd rather they were suspended for Man City than Leicester, because I think we could have a pop off Leicester. So yeah, I'd agree with you there, Tom. If they're going to pick them up this weekend.
I'd rather they didn't pick them up at all. But if
I'd rather, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think it's only worth them picking up yellows if we win.
Oh yeah,
you know, because if we don't win, you can go to City, you can go and try and get something out of. City have been kept scoreless in some games this season. You know, they've not been like, yes, when they hit form, like they're banging 6-7 like or whatever this season. But you could stifle City. You know, teams have done it this season already. Crystal Palace being one of them, I think. And Crystal Palace beat them 2-0.
They did.
It's the first game of the season. Spurs did it, beat them 1-0. Back when Spurs were managed by. Oh, it was Nuno. It wasn't. Yeah, so you forget who was managing Spurs at any given time of the year at this stage. But yeah, so as I say, the caveat for me was, I have no problem picking up yellows as long as we're 4-0 up. You know, we make sure that the game is won. For sure. This is an interesting one from home. Pardon?
We have cover for them. We have cover, so it's not a big deal as it would have been in the past.
Absolutely. Homebird Digital says, be interesting to see what a week's work on the grass with the players has done. Another 3 points is not impossible against a very well drilled team. That's exactly it. Yeah. I think we're going to see something closer to what's inside in Steven Gerrard's head this week, and it goes without saying that's not groundbreaking news or anything like that. But I think it's just the fact that he will have had a full week with all his squad, as opposed to just I think he'd only one training session with some of the guys who came back from international duty last week. So it's difficult to be able to kind of implement whatever you need to implement in such a short space of time as well.
Sure.
Some love coming in there from Target, from Subum Gamer, and from John Steele as well. Even though John says we do need a better left back, I think it's fair enough to say. You know, we have Target at the moment. I think he's very serviceable. Bringing another left back to push him, you know, why not have two good players in the flank? Absolutely, I agree. Sanson, will we see him at the weekend? He was on the bench last week. I think we'll probably see him on the bench. Whether we see him from the bench is another thing. Be really interesting actually to see who is in that midfield, because you'd have to think Ashley Young is a midfield /10 player at the moment under Dean Smith. Does Carney Chukwuemeka drop out of the squad? You know, once again, going back to will Steven Gerrard pick experienced players to start because they might take the instruction a small bit better, or will Carney Chukwuemeka? So when we do the team sheet tantrum on Saturday, it's going to be every bit as important, I think, to look at the subs as to get a measure of what Steven Gerrard wants in the short term, as it is to be looking at who's in the starting 11. Soupy Mark says it'll be hard to drop Nakamba. Yeah, we spoke about that. I think it will be hard, but not beyond the realms of possibility that he is dropped, I think, for sure. Tom Ryan thinks Ings should be dropped based on the game the last day.
A lot of people thinking that, yeah. I know it's an easy thing to say when Watkins got his chance, he stuck it away. Ings just didn't get the opportunity, unfortunately, but he hasn't been playing badly. He's just struggled to get into the system.
I think so too. I think that makes sense. Both under Dean Smith and in under Steven Gerrard, and it's one of those funny ones. In the 3-5-2, he played better. He was one of these players who played better in the 3-5-2 than Ings. But we'll see. As I say, look, he's a wily old fox. He'll adapt himself, I'm sure, and he doesn't take too much coaching. You know, he plays the game a small bit more naturally than a lot of players. Dean says this as well, that we need pace against Palace. They're big and stronger than us, but with pace scares defenders. Run at them with the ball and pass them. And that's Paddy's prediction is that we will go with pace with Buendia and with Bailey. And then either one of Watkins and Ings up front, and that could very, very well happen. Could very well happen. All will be told on Saturday. I'm sorry, my mind is working about 14 minutes behind where it normally is at the moment. But all will be revealed on Saturday. I think that's gonna do it for us, guys. Do we have anything? Is there anything else do we need to chat about, Paddy? Anything that we missed?
I don't think so.
Don't use be much chatter. Oh, there is. There's been huge chatter. Actually, there's been class stuff going on. Some really I love these stories. These stories that always come out when a new manager, like when a new manager comes into a club and media outlets love him. And they really want like you get these same stories. They're the same stories the whole time. He's banned ketchup. He's banned mustard. He's banned Nando's sauce. He's banned butter. Like Conte is getting that at the moment as well from Spurs, from the Spurs beat writers. And look, hey, what I'm saying here is it's probably happening. But most managers do it when they come in. And also, I had a really good chuckle today at the fact that Steven Gerrard has set up a private Instagram group for the players so that they can look at tactics. I looked at that and call me old-fashioned at the age of 37, but I looked at that and I went, it's only a fucking matter of time before somebody's disgruntled and they start taking screenshots and sending it on to people from an Instagram group. No,
that's a load of shit.
There's
no way that goes on. There's no way tactics go on to Instagram or WhatsApp or anything. They stay in-house, and if you can't pick up the tactics by looking at them on the board when you're inside, you shouldn't be out on the pitch. You shouldn't have to get an image on Instagram.
I agree. But it just goes to show that, like, you know, it was a bad thing that Dean Smith was holding training at 12 noon because of trying to adapt to the way that the younger players might take things on board and we're staying a bit later. But then if you're going to be if that is true, and if they're putting tactics and stuff like that up on Instagram, I'm not saying it's wrong or it's bad. I'm saying not for me. Not for me. It wouldn't be something I would be doing.
That's not happening.
Yeah, potentially. But we'll see. Next week I'll probably come on and say, you know what, I've had time to think about it and reflect on it, and I think it's actually a great idea. But on this day, the 24th of November 2021, I'm a bit dubious about it. Put it that way. That's all I will say. And nobody, not even Steven Gerrard, will come into the canteen and wrestle mustard out of my cold dead hands is what he'd have to do, because there's in no way I'd be having a ham sandwich without mustard on it. I'd give up my place in the team. But then again, that's just me and my lack of professionalism. I think that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much once again, everybody, for listening and for checking in. We will be back with a team sheet for our team sheet tantrum on Saturday. And hopefully I'll have a different background to me, because I'll be in my podcasting boudoir then, as opposed to being here in this utility room, is what I would describe where I am at the moment. So thanks very much, everybody, for listening and for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate it. It just gets the algorithm to plug it out and push it out there to other people, and really helps us. We're nearly at 2,000 followers as well. If there's anybody watching here that isn't actually a subscriber of us on YouTube, we're getting there. We're plugging away. I think there's only about 16 more needed to get to 2,000 for our vanity project. But thanks so much to everybody for everything you do. We will be back on Saturday, as I say, at 10 to 2 with the team sheet tantrum. And until then, guys, all that's really left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.